excited for today's video because it's very different from what I normally upload, which is reading vlogs or bookstore vlogs, which is day in my lives. Is a book recommendation tag. We are throwing it back to old school YouTube with today's video. I actually got this idea from Steph Bohr's recent upload. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. If you watch her, please don't come for me. I love watching her videos, and a few days ago she uploaded a book recommendation tag. I loved all the questions that she created for that video, so I thought I would do my own version. It's actually pretty funny because I love watching her videos, but our book taste could not be any more different. All the books that I love, she hates, and all the books that she loves, I don't really like, but I still enjoy watching her, and I also think she's so pretty. She's like my girl crush here on YouTube, but I just think it's funny how we don't have the same book taste, but I still watch her videos, and it makes me wonder if any of you guys don't share the same book taste as I do and hate all of my book recommendations but still watch my videos. I think that would be really interesting, so let me know if you're one of them. I'm babbling, but I have all the questions on my phone. So the first question on this book recommendation tag is a book you tell people is your favorite. I honestly have no shame in admitting what my all-time favorite book is, and that is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is a very dark romance book, and I don't know what it says about me that this is one of my favorite books. Not like my all-time favorite, but it's pretty high up there. And whenever someone asks me like what's your favorite book, I always say Verity. Again, it is very dark, so definitely look up triggers before you read this book, but I read it in one sitting. I really enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed the characters. The ending was a complete mindfuck for me, excuse my language, but it truly was. It really threw me in for such a loop that I was thinking about this book for literally weeks after I had finished it. I still think about this book till this day, and I feel like this book is the best of both worlds because it has romance and it also has a little bit of mystery. It has like a little gothic horror vibe to it as well, and again, I just really enjoyed it, so I have no shame in telling people that this is my favorite, well, one of my favorite books. A book that is your guilty pleasure. Okay, so the book that's my guilty pleasure to read is actually part of a series, and whenever I tell people that I love reading these books, they always look at me weird because they don't expect it. And also this series gets a lot of hate. I will have to say that my guilty pleasure book to read is the 50 Shades of Grey series. I honestly prefer the Grey series, which is told by Christian Grey's, the male main character's point of view, but I honestly love all the books. It's typically not the type of book that I gravitate towards because it is quite spicy, but I don't really enjoy it because of the spice. I honestly enjoy it because of the love story between Anastasia Steele and Christian Grey, and the movies for me are just elite. I honestly watch the movies at least once a year. Like, I love them, and I love the actors, Dakota Johnson, and I forget the male character's name. Oh, that is so bad. People love to hate on this series. They say that the writing sucks. They say that people wouldn't love Christian Grey if he wasn't a billionaire. I don't care. I love it, and it's definitely my guilty pleasure read. Can't help like what I like. A book everyone loved, but you didn't. You guys are gonna hate me for this. I actually have two books that fall into this category. One is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Absolutely despise that book. I don't have it with me right now because it's actually in a box somewhere. I don't really hate books all that often, but I absolutely hate Normal People. Like, that book made me so angry, and I feel like the majority of people enjoyed it, and I just was not one of them. Another book that I didn't enjoy and that a lot of people loved is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. It is enemies to lovers, and there is a lot of diversity in this book, which I enjoyed, but I didn't like how much it focused on politics, so this definitely was a letdown for me, and I feel like I'm in the minority because a lot of people loved this book. I just didn't. Sorry, don't hate me. A book you read the fastest. So it was really hard for me to just narrow down one book for this question because I typically read all of my books pretty quickly. I typically read them in one sitting. It's a problem, but one of my most recent books that I finished pretty quickly was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is a romantic comedy, kind of enemies to lovers fake dating. It's YA, which I normally don't like, but this one really grabbed my heart and I absolutely fell in love with the characters. The writing was so fun, and it's actually a pretty short book. It's not long at all, so I was able to finish it pretty quickly. And if you haven't read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, definitely check out this book because it's really cute. A book that deserves more hype. I picked Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I don't really see this book on Book Talk. Maybe I'm on the wrong side of Book Talk, I don't know, but I don't see a lot of people talking about this book, and I just think it's a really good thriller. I was at the edge of my seat reading this book the entire time. I wasn't able to guess the twist. The ending took me by complete surprise, which is a must for a thriller. There's nothing more frustrating than reading a thriller and being able to guess all the twists, being able to guess the ending. I hate a predictable thriller, but this one for me was not predictable at all. I really enjoyed all the characters. They were super complex. There was a lot more to them than you originally thought. I have seen Alice Feeney everywhere, but I see some of her other books. I think there's a book from her that's called Rock, Paper, Scissors. I don't know if that's the exact title, but I see that book everywhere, and I don't really see a lot of people talking about Daisy Darker, but I do think this book deserves more hype. A book that is becoming a movie slash TV show. So I'm pretty sure the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J Maas is being turned into a show. I think it's going to be on Amazon Prime. I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it, but I think I saw it online once and I'm just gonna go with it. I didn't even look it up before I started filming this video, but I'm pretty sure this book series is being turned into a show by Amazon Prime, and I'm super excited. If somehow you're not familiar with the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, I think there's 5 books in total. Hey baby, my cat's here. It's fantasy romance. It just has so many lovable characters. Honestly, I was not bored reading this series at all. I know the first book in the series gets a lot of hate, which is this one, A Court of Thorns and Roses. A lot of people didn't like this book. I personally loved it. I enjoyed it. If you're looking to get into a good fantasy series, definitely check out this one. A book you've reread the most. So I actually don't have the books with me because I own them in the Kindle version, but the first one is the Twilight series. I don't know what it is about the Twilight series and the Twilight movies, but they are so comforting to me. Again, this is a series that gets a lot of hate now when it was really popular back in the day, but for some reason people like to shit on it now. They think Bella's annoying, Edward's annoying. I don't care. I personally love it, maybe because I grew up with the books, so they hold a special place in my heart. And of course, the 50 Shades of Grey series I've reread a couple times and I love them. No shame in admitting that. A book from a genre you don't typically read. I typically don't read gothic horror, although I'm really trying to get into that genre and read a little bit more. But the first book that I read in the gothic horror genre was Mexican Gothic by Silva Moreno Garcia. Absolutely loved this book. It definitely kept me at the edge of my seat. I think I read this in one sitting, if I remember correctly. If you're looking for a good gothic horror, mystery, a little bit of thriller, definitely check out this book. It can be a little slow at times, but I really enjoyed it. And I also don't think it gets enough hype because I don't see a lot of people talking about it, but I always recommend this to anyone who's interested in getting into the gothic horror genre. The scenery, the writing was 10 out of 10 for me. A book that deserves all the hype it gets. This is a book that I've recently seen everywhere on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I definitely think it's worth the hype, and that is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I read this book in January and absolutely loved it. It reminds me a lot of the off-campus books, especially The Deal. Even though it reminds me of those books, I still think it does a good job of separating itself from those books and standing on its own. It is a fun college hockey romance, if that's your thing, but it also deals with a lot of deep topics like eating disorders, struggling with perfectionism, struggling to live up to other people's expectations, and I definitely think it's worth of all the hype it's been getting. A book you usually recommend when asked to give a recommendation. Honestly, I typically recommend anything by Colleen Hoover because I think her books are super addicting, especially if you want to get into reading. I think starting with Colleen Hoover is a great way to do that. Like, not all her books are great, don't get me wrong. There are definitely some Colleen Hoover books where I'm just like, Didn't really feel that one, but I do like the majority of her books. And again, I think her books are super addicting, so you're able to read them pretty quickly. I read most of her books in one sitting. Some of them are going to make you laugh, some of them are going to make you cry, some of them are going to make you super happy. But I just love recommending anything by Colleen Hoover, although I feel like she's been getting a lot of hate lately, and I don't really get the hate train that she's been having, but I still really enjoy her books. A book that has your favorite characters. That was super easy for me to pick, and that is Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is enemies to lovers, very loosely enemies to lovers because they're enemies for like 5 seconds and then they become friends and eventually lovers. It's like a small town romance. It takes place in the summer. Augustus and January have my heart. I literally was so happy while reading this book, and when it finished I was actually kind of sad because I didn't want it to end. And I don't give 5 stars out very easily or very often, but this one was definitely a easy 5-star read for me. The characters were just so lovable. I honestly had no complaints about either of the main characters, which is kind of surprising for me. Like, I normally find 1 or 2 things that the main characters of books do that are very annoying, but in this book I thought that they were perfect, and in my eyes they are perfect. Augustus is my book boyfriend, love him so much, and I just loved his relationship with January, so this is a book that will forever be in my heart. A book you wish you could live in. This one was kind of hard for me to choose a book for because I don't normally want to live in books, especially since some of the books that I read are full of drama, but I did pick Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score because I just loved the small town vibes in that book. Things We Never Got Over is a mainly Grumpy Sunshine type of book, and I really loved it, but I specifically loved it because of all the small town vibes and all of the side characters in the book. And I just loved how all the characters in the book came together to rally behind the main character and how they were always willing to help out. And I just really love that vibe of people just being there for one another without expecting anything in return. So that's why I picked Things We Never Got Over. But honestly, I don't know if I want to live in any of the books that I read. A book you thought you would hate but ended up loving. That one was pretty easy. I thought I was absolutely going to hate Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch. I thought I was going to hate it because it is YA, and normally for YA books I find them kind of cringy, maybe because I'm not in the age group YA books are meant to be for, but this one was really adorable. It takes place in Italy, so I love the scenery. It also takes place during the summer, so I definitely got a lot of summer vibes, and I fell in love with the main character Lena. She definitely went through a lot at a young age, and I just loved her character development in this book. Again, I just thought it was really wholesome. A book that made you cry. I also forgot to grab this book. Why did I not grab these books? They're literally sitting on my bookshelf. But a book that made me cry would have to be Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I think I started crying as soon as I opened up that book and read the first chapter. Like, that book was so sad. It tugged at my heart. It really showed how people grieve differently. Even if they're grieving for the same person, their reactions to the death of a loved one can be completely different from one another. It really drove home about the importance of giving people second chances. I think it's a beautifully written book, and it definitely tugged at my heart. I don't think I'll ever read it again because it made me cry so much, but I did enjoy it. A book you wish you could read for the first time. Honestly, that would be The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. There are a ton of books that I wish I could read again for the first time, but this one is definitely up there. This is a romantic comedy. It is enemies to lovers, a little bit of fake dating, and I just loved the scenery in this book. It takes place in Hawaii. I love the 2 main characters. I thought it was actually pretty funny. This was the first Christina Lauren book that I read, and I absolutely fell in love with the writing. I honestly haven't been able to read a Christina Lauren book that lives up to this one, which is kind of sad, but I really loved this book, and I wish I could read it again for the first time because it was so fun to read. I remember exactly when I read this. I literally sat in my bed and did not move until I finished it. If you haven't read The Unhoneymooners, I'm jealous. Go read it so you can love it as much as I do. That brings us to the end of today's video. This is my version of Steph's book recommendation tag, and I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. Feel free to do this tag in the comments below. I would love to read your version of this tag. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. Really hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you a part of my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.